Donald Trump has gotten himself into this mess.
Iran is considering the possibility of striking American military facilities in Europe if Trump decides to escalate the war or refuses to back down from his demands.
And this happened literally the day after Donald Trump himself published a map showing the Strait of Hormuz as new territory of the United States of America. This is a gesture that many in the region saw as a direct provocation. The North Atlantic Alliance has already responded, promising to protect its allies in Europe against Iran. But just think about it. Iran, which according to Trump has supposedly been defeated for several months now and has neither an army, nor a navy, nor missiles, is now threatening Europe with new strikes as well. How do you like that? So, let's discuss all of this in detail. My name is Pechiy, and before we begin, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like this episode and leave any comment you like. So, let's start with Iran's threat now directed at Europe. According to the Financial Times, as of August 19th, Iran is considering the possibility of striking American military facilities in Europe in the event of a new escalation of the conflict with the United States. In particular, this could involve facilities in southern and southeastern Europe, including Bulgaria and Cyprus. According to the publication, the reason for such a threat was that the US Secretary of the Treasury had recently threatened Iran with unprecedented economic isolation from the global economy. And this is also happening against the backdrop of a statement that the Pentagon is considering winding down some US military bases in the Middle East that are located too close to Iran. And Iran saw this as a weakness and began escalating its threats. By the way, about the reduction of US military bases in the Middle East, I have a separate episode on that, so I recommend you check it out. NATO responded quickly to such threats. However, as always, the response was rather mild. A representative of the alliance stated, and I quote, "NATO is ready to confront any threat and will always do whatever is necessary to protect all allies." And then he provided concrete evidence that the alliance had already dealt with a similar threat in practice. Here is another quote. "As was demonstrated earlier this year when NATO air defense systems successfully intercepted ballistic missiles that were headed from Iran toward Turkey. In 4 separate cases, our deterrence and defense capabilities are strong and effective." This refers to March of this year, when indeed 4 Iranian ballistic missiles headed toward Turkey were intercepted by NATO systems. So far, the alliance has. After these attacks, the alliance strengthened missile defense across the entire bloc and stated that the heightened readiness level of missile defense systems would remain until the threat from Iran decreases. Well, so far this level of threat has not decreased. It's also important to note that this threat from Iran is not entirely new. It's part of a longer pattern of escalation from Tehran. Let me remind you, even back in February. For example, earlier this year, the New York Times reported that in response to US strikes on Iran, the Islamic Republic might attack American targets in Europe and the Middle East. So from February to August, the logic of the threat itself hasn't changed. It's just that now it's been spelled out for specific countries and tied to a new economic trigger. So Trump decided to shift the war into the economic sphere, into the realm of sanctions and economic strangulation. And Iran sees this as a new escalation and says, in response, we'll start hitting Europe. But as sources in Tehran told the Financial Times, Iran's threats didn't come out of nowhere. And well, another example is given. On the evening of August 18th, the President of the United States posted an image on Truth Social showing a map of the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, where the Strait of Hormuz is circled in blue with a caption, "New territory of the United States of America." The American leader did not add any additional caption or explanation to this image, but of course this caused obvious disapproval in the Middle East.
And this post is a continuation of Donald Trump's own threats because for the first time he intends to declare the Strait of Hormuz as US territory. Trump made this statement on Friday at one of the rallies in New Jersey, even before publishing this map. At the same time, it's important to distinguish, of course, between political statements and legal status. The publication of the map itself does not change the international legal status of the Hormuz Strait in any way, and does not mean its formal annexation to the United States. This is, excuse me, another tantrum from Donald Trump, who, let me just remind you, declared the territories of the United States of America. Canada, Venezuela, Greenland, the Panama Canal. That's what I remember. He already declared that all of this is American territory. Well, that's the kind of amusement the American president has. Nevertheless, the Iranians were clearly offended by this. But at the same time, Trump also made an important statement. He said that all negotiations with Iran have been stopped and he is moving to economically strangle Tehran. The context in which this map from Donald Trump appeared is also important for understanding the full intensity of the moment. The situation around the Strait of Hormuz escalated after the peace memorandum between Iran and the US expired. Although now experts are saying, and in particular American media have started writing about this, that Iran is gradually, but still, losing control over the Strait of Hormuz. And as of today, about 80 ships and tankers are already passing by the Iranian corridor, although Iran is trying to counteract this. That's why the reaction of the Iranian side to Donald Trump's map turned out to be sarcastic. Official Iranian representatives stated that the Hormuz Strait cannot be captured with a tweet, an aircraft carrier, an executive order, or a campaign speech. Well, the Speaker of the Iranian parliament, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, put forward clear conditions and stated, and I quote, "The Hormuz Strait will only be open after US oil sanctions are lifted. The blockade is ended and Iranian assets are unfrozen." He also stated that Tehran is ready to deliver more serious strikes against the US depending on Washington's further actions. So he directly linked the possible escalation specifically to the threat of strikes, which was later reported by the Financial Times newspaper. Separately, Ghalibaf added another telling detail. He said that the ceasefire agreement, which the parties to the conflict reached as part of the June Memorandum, allowed Tehran to strengthen its economy and restore its defense capabilities. So essentially, Ghalibaf publicly admitted that the pause in hostilities was used specifically for military recovery, and not for real steps toward peace. I honestly don't know how to describe such a spit in the face of Donald Trump, but Trump, wiped it off and moved on. Let me emphasize this once again. Donald Trump signed a memorandum with Iran in June, hoping that within 60 days they would reach some kind of agreement and so on. Now Ghalibaf is saying, listen, nobody was going to sign anything, are you kidding? We just needed a pause to strengthen the economy and restore our defense capabilities. Basically, we achieved that. We did it. That's it. Now we're moving forward without any kind of memorandum. And here, in fact, the war could actually spread in both directions. Donald Trump himself, even earlier, commenting on the situation around the Hormuz Strait, threatened to bomb Oman to hell if they interfere in the situation around the Hormuz Strait. Well, I mean, the pattern of behavior is the same on both sides. Both Washington and Tehran use the toughest possible public rhetoric toward third countries and allies, not directly involved in the conflict, but physically located near the confrontation zone. In the case of Iran, theoretically, Bulgaria and Cyprus risk coming under attack. These are NATO countries that are not directly involved in the conflict with Iran itself, but host American military facilities. Bottom line. And this provocative map by Donald Trump showing new US territory appeared the day after all diplomatic illusions around the Strait of Hormuz had ended, and almost immediately provoked a response from Tehran. That is, a threat of strikes against American facilities in the two mentioned NATO countries, which are located in Europe. The alliance responded calmly, referring to the experience of intercepting Iranian missiles already practiced in March. But the very fact that the threat comes with a specific list of countries, Bulgaria and Cyprus, shows that the conflict, which began as a confrontation exclusively between the US, Israel and Iran, continues to slowly but surely extend the range of potential targets to the European continent. I liked a wonderful headline in Axios today. I think that the war with Iran, which has already ended more than 30 times, continues. It's been going on for half a year now. And there's no end in sight to this war. Although according to the American president, Iran is already destroyed. The regime has almost capitulated. There is no army, no navy, there are no missiles, there is no money, there is nothing. But for some reason, the war has been going on for 6 months. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments under this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now, take care of yourselves, goodbye everyone.